How do you feel your momentum? And how do you get into your zone, right? And I'm glad you asked. There's 3 things, and you better catch it. My mama used to tell me that people love to watch the fire burn. There's one thing I know about life, one thing that I know about life, it's a guarantee. Change is inevitable. As much as you want to be in your comfort zone, as much as you would like to be stable, as much as you would like to have a comfortable environment, the realization is everything changes. Here's my last one. My last one. Carl, you gotta give me that term again. Spontaneous combustion, right. And what happens is,
when a fire starts to burn, right, and it starts to spread, she gonna bring that attitude home. You don't wanna do nothing with their life. When a fire starts to burn, right, and it starts to spread, she gonna bring that attitude home. You don't wanna do nothing with their life. When a fire starts to burn, right, and it starts to spread, she gonna bring that attitude home. You don't wanna do nothing with their life. When a fire starts to burn, right, and it starts to spread, she gonna bring that attitude home. You don't wanna do nothing with their life. When a fire starts to When a fire starts to When a fire starts to burn.
Very nice M3, banana yellow. Very nice. It's the night before UFC Fight Night Sandhagen versus Figueiredo. I've just had a lovely meal and I'm getting ready for a very busy weekend of betting where hopefully we can win our bets on the Sandhagen Figueiredo card. Hopefully we can add to it with a profit in live betting. So I've got no idea how I've done at the moment. This video is obviously about UFC 315, but hopefully we made a little bit of money. Hopefully I helped you make some cash for that card. And in 24 hours time, I'll find out how we've done when those fights take place. But right now I want to talk about the main event of this weekend's card, which is going to be Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. Now when I first started researching this card and taking a look at all the odds, I was surprised that Belal Muhammad wasn't a much bigger favourite, because from memory we've seen Jack Della Maddalena run into a lot of problems on the ground against Hafez and Gilbert Burns in his last fight, and obviously we know Belal Muhammad showed us in the Leon Edwards fight that he is an extremely strong offensive wrestler with great grappling control. So I couldn't understand why Muhammad was like a 1.40 minus 250 favourite. I assumed he would be closer to the 1.20 minus 500 range, but here we are, and the odds on Muhammad are semi-playable. Now I will say this, based on my research, it is definitely still a very difficult fight for Jack Della Maddalena. He makes a lot of mistakes on the ground, he gives up a lot of cheap takedowns, he is very weak off his back. But I do give him more of a chance of beating Belal than I initially thought I would. Reason being, I don't think Jack Della Maddalena needs to improve too much in order to have takedown defense at a level which could cause a guy like Belal problems. Based on his past performances, he's not there yet, but he might be this weekend, and I think in the near future Jack Della Maddalena will come good. He will end up being good. The question is whether he's made improvements big enough to make his fight this weekend against Belal Muhammad competitive. Probabilities are not in his favour. It is more likely that Belal Muhammad will be able to use a grappling heavy game plan to win this weekend. So the next fight we're going to talk about is Jose Aldo versus Ayman Zahabi. Now before researching this one, this is not a fight that I thought I would be betting because Aldo is a big favourite. Aldo's 38 years old, and when I looked at the odds I just thought, you know what, this fight's not that interesting. Aldo probably is going to win pretty easily because he is the better striker out of the two, but there's no way I would bet a 38-year-old striker as a big favourite in a fight like this. But I didn't realise Ayman Zahabi is almost the same age as Jose Aldo. He's 37 years old, so it's not like this is an old veteran that's declining facing this young, hungry, up-and-coming bull. Both these guys are old as hell, which kind of makes this a fair fight, and I really like the matchmaking here. So after researching this matchup, I ended up loving Aldo in this fight. I will be looking to bet him this weekend. I think this is a great stylistic matchup for him. what's crazy about Aldo is he's got all the characteristics of a fighter that should be declining, but he just isn't. He's still quite sharp, cardio still decent, great combinations, hits very hard, moves well, reflexes are still on point. And Ayman Zahabi is a little bit of a flat, basic, average striker, kind of just stands in front of you flat-footed, doesn't really have too much pop in his shots, too much power in his hands, doesn't really have the grappling to disrupt Jose Aldo's striking in the way guys like Mario Bautista have. So for me, this is a stand-up fight. One striker is clearly superior to the other. Of course, I'm talking about Aldo. And so even though the odds on Aldo are pretty steep, I still think he wins this fight a very high percentage of the time, and there is some good value there. It's fight day. We've got the Sandhagen-Figueiredo card to look forward to later on tonight, and I'm feeling very tired. I always feel tired on fight day because UFC events generally start very late in the UK. Tonight's card starts at midnight, which is crazy. So a couple days before a UFC event, I start to switch my sleep cycle, switch which time zone I'm living on from the European time zone to the American one. So I'm feeling a bit jet lagged now, and the UFC doesn't start for many hours. But long before a UFC event starts, I'm very busy on Saturdays live betting football, and I'm currently live betting this game between Bristol City and Preston North End. Bristol City are currently losing 2-0 at home in the final day of the English Championship. They need to either draw or win to get into the playoffs. So this is a big game. Hopefully Bristol City can score a goal, win this bet for us, and hopefully we can kick the day off with a profit. I'm looking forward to taking you guys along with me live betting tonight's card, so you can kind of see how the sausage is made, see behind the scenes. We're going to be getting into that in a few hours, but for now, all the work to be done is on football. So I just ordered a McDonald's for lunch, and you know what's funny about this? Every week we talk about fighter cardio, fighters being in shape, and here's my fat ass eating McDonald's just a few hours before the greatest athletes in the world step into the UFC octagon for our entertainment, and I'm eating fucking McDonald's. But you know what? Very long time ago, in my first job, when I was like 16, 17 years old, I worked in a bakery. And my manager at the time, it was a guy called Anthony Crump, and I used to work so hard. I'd want to impress him. I would always do my best. I would like work through my breaks, work through my lunches. I wanted to put in big effort to try and impress this guy. And he would always say to me on these really busy days, go take a break. You must be hungry. You've got to go eat something. You've got to fuel the fire. And that's always stuck with me, man. You've got to fuel the fire, even if the fuel is absolutely shit. We got a busy day ahead of us, so we need to eat something. I ain't got time to cook. So the UFC is just about to start, and I'm getting ready to live bet this Sandhagen versus Figueiredo card. So I thought before the event kicks off and I start to get really busy analysing these fights live, I would show you guys my setup. So if I flip the camera around, you can see that we have a TV in the background and then 4 different devices. So we've got a tablet here, we've got a tablet here, and we've got 3 laptops in the back, and then we've got the TV in the background. And the way that I do things is I will have the fights playing on the background, so I'll be live betting based on this display, this TV here, and then on my devices I will broadcast my live betting tips to my community on this device here, this tablet, and then these 4 devices will be for betting. So I will put a different betting site on this laptop and this laptop and this laptop, and also this tablet here right in front of me. So I have different betting sites, a different account logged into each betting site, and this will enable me to monitor the odds across different betting sites, which increases the probability of me getting in on live bets. Because if you guys have live bet on the UFC, you will know that the odds suspend a lot, they change a lot, they jump around, they decline, they improve. So by having a wide range of betting sites open means that you can quickly see where the best odds are, which sites are suspended, which sites are open, and that just increases the probability that you'll be able to get in on bets. Also, it multiplies how much money you can make, because if you've only got 1 betting account, obviously you can only make a profit on that 1 betting account. But if you have 4 betting accounts open, like I do, obviously that means I can multiply the amount of money I make by 4. 4 times as much, right? So this is my current live betting setup, and if I had more space for more laptops and devices, trust me, I would put more out. So wish me luck. The first fight between Juliana Miller and Ivana Petravic is just about to start. Here we go, first fight of the night, Juliana Miller versus Ivana Petravic. Like I say, I want to start a new winning streak tonight. We recently went on that 6-event winning streak. Then we had a losing event. It's time to start another streak now. So this is potentially a good fight for live betting if Miller shows up and has some improvement compared to her last couple of fights. If she shows up and looks like she did in her last couple, I think Petravic is going to win very easily. But Miller is very young, and so she is one of those fighters that could easily have improved since the last time we saw her against Veronica Hardy. So based on past performances, Petravic is better than Miller in every single aspect of MMA. She has a huge advantage when it comes to striking. You know, she's got reasonably technical striking. She moves well, nice combinations, good Muay Thai, good kickboxing. And Miller is just very uncomfortable on the feet. So Miller is one of these fighters that, you know, doesn't really read her opponents particularly well, has no power in her hands. She's an absolute sitting duck. So if this fight stays standing, Miller is in a lot of trouble. But we know that Miller aggressively pursues the takedown. If Miller doesn't get the takedown, she's got no problem pulling guard. And on top of that, Petravic is more than happy to engage in grappling positions as well. And at times, she'll take her opponents down or attempt to take her opponents down. So Miller is one of these fighters that because she has no striking, she commits very, very hard to her grappling. But Petravic's takedown offense is pretty good. It's not impossible to take Petravic down, but it isn't easy. So Petravic's defensive wrestling is pretty solid, and her ability to work her way back up to her feet and defend herself in bad positions on the ground is also pretty good. So what are we looking for when it comes to live betting this fight? Well, primarily, we're looking for improvement in Miller. She's showing any signs of improvement on the feet, but we're also looking to see if she's able to get Petravic down and hold her down. If Miller starts hitting takedowns and you see Petravic quickly work her way back up to her feet, it's probably going to be a very difficult fight for Miller. And why is Miller walking out with a Brazilian flag? What is up with that? Miller gets the outside trip on Petravic. Very nice. Very, very, very nice. So Petravic giving up a takedown at a bad time in the round. There's about 3 minutes left to go in the round. This gives Miller an opportunity to rack up some control time. But wow, Petravic again showing, just like in past fights, she's difficult to hold down. With that, guys, I am going to recommend a 1 unit bet on Petravic at 1.53. That's 1 unit Petravic, 1.53. Obviously, don't want to go too big, low-level women's MMA, but with Petravic taking round 1, she's got time to potentially steal this round. If she doesn't, and it's 1 round apiece heading into the third, I think Petravic is far more likely to win the third. And we're going to take a loss on that. Very nice performance from Miller. Petravic tried to give her back up to defend the takedown against the cage at Costa. So I'll take a quick break. I'll be back just in time for the next one. We actually made money live betting both of these two guys' last fights. So we made money, if you remember, live betting on Chris Gutierrez against Quang Lee. And Chris Gutierrez came through for us. And then we made money on Gaston Bolaños against Romius. And Bolaños came through for us in a big way in that fight as well. So interesting matchup between these two. Quang Lee isn't a grappler, but in the context of this fight, we need to view it as a classic striker versus grappler matchup. Gaston Bolaños is a pure kickboxer, and if the fight stays standing, Quang Lee is going to get outstruck like wide. Like on the feet, Quang Lee has no chance. Bolaños moves well, he's technical, he's aggressive, he throws a high volume of strikes. If Quang Lee wants to win this fight, he's going to have to grapple. This is only part of the victory. So early on, part of the live betting strategy for this one is paying close attention to how aggressive Quang Lee pursues the takedown. If he actively tries to go for the takedowns in his last fight, he didn't really try that hard to take his opponent down. And so this is one of those fights where how competitive it turns out to be will depend on how hard Quang Lee commits to his grappling. Bolaños is one of these guys that isn't easy to take down, but can be taken down, does have a tendency to give up cheap takedowns. Bolaños has excellent cardio. Quang Lee slows a little bit, Not a huge amount, but a little bit. So yeah, boys, hopefully we can get back on track with a profit on this fight. So with that, guys, I am going to recommend a 1 unit bet on Quang Lee at odds of 1.50. That's 1 unit Quang Lee, 1.50. We know Bolaños is susceptible to getting his back taken. We know he gives up a lot of cheap takedowns. For me, it's huge that Quang Lee didn't have to exert too much energy to put in a dominant first round. So if he can just produce another round like that, you should take this fight. And Bolaños gives his back up. Only one hook in from Quang Lee. That might be under the chin. I think Quang Lee's got a forearm under the chin here. He's got a forearm under... Oh, this should be over. This should be over. This should be over. This should be over. I'd be amazed if Bolaños fights through this. I would be amazed. How is he going to survive this? Boys, we did it. Quang Lee wins. We did it, boys. Quang Lee wins. We did it, we did it, we did it. Alright, that cuts the Petravic loss in half. Plenty of work still to do. We got a lot of work still to do. But, boys, that cuts the Petravic loss in half. Let's keep it moving. Plenty of fights still to come. Let's start a new winning streak tonight. I'll take a quick break. Be back just in time for the next one. So, Montel Jackson could be up 2 rounds. Definitely won the first. He's looking good in this 3rd round. Head kick as well. So if we can win this bet, this will get us back to break even on the night. And Jackson with the takedown. Very, very nice. Marcos looking exhausted. So our read on this fight was correct. Obviously Jackson's looked terrible, but we bet him based on the fact Marcos has a tendency to slow down, and you can see him looking pretty tired in this 3rd round. That is it, boys. That is it. So hopefully Jackson comes through for us here. Fingers crossed Jackson comes through for us. So hopefully, boys, we can get the night back on track. This would put us back close to break even. And then hopefully we can hit at least one more winner tonight, get us in profit. This would put us back to very close to break even on the night, setting us up for a profitable night if we can hit just one more winner with 3 fights left to come. It won't be easy. I don't think the main event or co-main event are going to be all that competitive. Next fight could be great. Come on, judges. Do your job. 30-27 is Garby Jackson. Alright, boys. There we go. Very, very, very nice. Very nice. So our read on that fight was correct. Obviously, Marcos did slow down in the 3rd round. I think Ponzanibio is the more active, technical volume striker, just like City was. And then Rodriguez is like the harder hitting, like conventional boxer, right? So the question for me in this fight is whether Pons just kind of dances around Rodriguez and outpoints him because Rodriguez is too one-dimensional and all he does is plod forward trying to box, or because, like Gould just said, Ponzanibio is super washed, and at this point it seems like any punch that lands clean will knock Pons out. Is Rodriguez's boxing just going to expose the fact that Pons is just super fragile? There's a couple things I'm thinking of here, guys. So obviously the 1st round was great for Rodriguez, right? There are 2 things I'm thinking of, though, as to where this fight can potentially get very interesting now from a live betting point of view. So Rodriguez's cardio throughout his career has been very good, but he is in his late 30s now, and he did commit quite hard for the finish there. Is Rodriguez potentially going to gas? Is he potentially going to adrenaline dump after committing so hard to the finish and not getting it? That's the first thing that we need to think about. The second thing we need to think about is that Rodriguez is very, 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 very weak off his back. Very weak off his back. And so Ponzanibio has shown in this fight a little bit of a willingness to grapple. He's gone for a couple of takedown attempts. If he can put Rodriguez on his back, Rodriguez is the kind of guy that will just lie on his back, making no attempt to get back up to his feet. So even though round 1 went well for Rodriguez, it was super competitive up until the point he wobbled Pons. And there are opportunities for Pons in this fight. There's the takedown attempt. Rodriguez has read it all night, though. Just under 2 minutes left to go. Rodriguez's mouth is open wide here. I say he's been a cardio machine throughout his career, but Rodriguez starting to eat some clean hard shots towards the end of this round. Pons starting to land that right hand. Inside leg kick from Pons. Pons in on a deep double leg. Great takedown defense though from Rodriguez. Single leg entry from Pons. With that, guys, I am going to recommend a 1 unit bet on Ponzanibio at odds of 3.75. So the reasoning for the bet is Rodriguez starting to look a little tired here, and I think Ponzanibio is winning round 2. I think there's a chance Rodriguez exerted a lot of energy going for the finish in round 1. He's old, we know, and Pons gets the takedown. 3.50, guys, is still there. Hopefully Pons can come through for us. We need a big round 3. Obviously he's very chinny, which is worrying, but fingers crossed. Fingers crossed we can snipe a win here, boys. Come on, Pons, go to the wrestling. Go to the wrestling, mate. Oh my god. No luck. Rodriguez knocks Ponzanibio out. Just no fucking luck, man. No luck at all. Just grapple, dude. Just fucking grapple. So frustrating. Absolutely no luck. It's like no matter how strong of a position we get our money into, the universe rugs us. I'll take a quick break. Be back just in time for the next one. It's 8:30 AM and the UFC finished about an hour ago and I'm still struggling to sleep. And I often get like this, more so like when I have a losing event, just because it like haunts me and I just keep thinking about like, could I have done this differently? Could I have done that differently? Just thinking about what mistakes I made, what I did well. And tonight was just a demoralising event for me. Like, after the Derrida fight, I just kind of, like, I had plans, like recording, like different things throughout the night. And I just, after the Derrida fight, I just turned the camera off. I just couldn't face the camera anymore. And I wasn't even going to record this. And then I had to remind myself why I even started doing these videos. So, obviously started doing a vlog last week. And I just had to remind myself of the purpose of these vlogs. So, the reason why I'm doing these is I'm 40 years old and I've been betting on the UFC for 15 years now. And in the last 15 years, I've had so much success. I've had so many highs. I've achieved so many amazing things. But because I'm an introverted guy that doesn't like being in front of a camera, like, if you go back watch my YouTube videos, if you go watch me on Twitter, no one of these guys is like, boom, or, you know what I mean? I don't like I don't brag about wins, I don't talk about losses. Generally, like, I keep it low key. And so I've had so much success over the years, so much success, man. But I haven't really captured any of it, you know what I'm saying? Other than like a profit chart, it's all in the past. And I've got it up here, but I really regret not like recording the journey that I've been on, because it would be really cool to look back at everything that I've achieved. And it's too late now, because obviously those times have passed. So that's why I'm doing these vlogs now every week. Through the good times and the bad, I'm doing the vlogs so that, you know, when I'm 60, 70 years old, I can look back at these vlogs and just kind of see what I achieved, how I felt in the good times and the bad. And another reason why I want to start doing these vlogs is because making money betting on sports is very cyclical. So you have these very high highs and these very low lows. At the moment, I'm in a very low low. In the big picture, long term, it's not that big of a deal. But I am in a dip. And every time I have a dip, it's always followed up by like this huge winning run. Every single time. Been here so many times throughout my career, and just when you think, you know, you can't win and so hard, you get the next leg up and you turn things around, you go on this big winning run. So that's another reason why I started doing these videos, because I thought it would be really cool to show you guys that. Show you like the lowest lows. And if I do these vlogs every week, show you the highest highs as well. You come with me on the highest highs, because we will get to the highest highs. Today was my biggest winning day of the year on football. I didn't vlog any of it just because Saturday is a really busy day for football, so I placed like 13 bets today. And if I would have vlogged all that, this vlog would be huge. So I thought I'd just focus on the UFC. I won't like capture all the football stuff today, but today was my biggest winning day of the year on football. I actually made a profit today overall. I actually made money today, but it doesn't fucking feel like it. I feel terrible, actually. And I think it's just the way our brains are wired, right? Like we are hardwired to like focus on the negative. It's like a survival instinct, I think. So even though I actually made money today, I can't think about what I did good on football. All I can think about is the UFC. So I don't even know. Like, I'm probably rambling at this point. Like I said, it's 8:30 a.m. I've been up for like 20 hours straight. And I don't know how much of tonight I actually captured. It's all a bit of a blur. I finished, obviously, live betting on the UFC is my bread and butter. I finished 2-2 for a 1 unit loss. So not the end of the world. Only a 1 unit loss. But the one loss I took, it was absolutely demoralising, man. So every now and again, I run into a bet that I just absolutely love. And when you lose bets, you absolutely love. And when I say absolutely love, I mean you run into these bets that you just think like, this is winning. When I've been doing this for 15 years, you almost get like a sixth sense for like what bets are gonna win. And I placed a bet and I absolutely loved. It was about a minute left to go in round 2. I bet on Santiago Ponzanibio to beat Daniel Rodriguez at very generous underdog odds. Very generous. Would have been a huge profit if I would have hit this. From my perspective, he was starting to time Rodriguez with the right hand, starting to have success with his wrestling. We know Rodriguez has bad takedown defense. He's very weak off his back. I thought, after Pons has been hurt bad in round 1, that'll make it more likely for him to grapple now, as he won't want to get rocked again. And Rodriguez started to look tired towards the end of round 3, so I got in on Ponzanibio just before his odds moved. We got him a big underdog odds. Rodriguez was looking gassed out of his mind at the end of round 2 when he got taken down. I was like, yes. All Pons needs to do now is come out in this third round, grapple hard. I'll hit a huge underdog winner here. And then a minute later, he's like knocked out. So, absolutely demoralising. I've had so much success with those kind of bets over the years. And I really thought I had a big one there. So, it's annoying. And then I don't even know what happened in the Bo Nickel DeRidder fight. Like, I'm too tired to even process it. I just know Bo Nickel looked fucking terrible. Paul Guard, it's like a running theme at the moment. Every fucking bet I place, either the guy I bet looks terrible, like Pereira last week, Nickel this week, or their opponent looks much better than usual, or a combination of the two. And like I say, that's the way it goes sometimes. It's very, very, very hard to make money betting on sports. That's why I've never been one of these guys that posts on social media and like, boom, crushed it. Because ultimately, no one crushes it forever. Like, newsflash. No one just wins and wins and wins and wins forever. No point in being those dicks that are like, boom, crushed it. I'm so amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like, these guys on Instagram and that, just like, boom. At the end of the day, everyone hits bad patches, downswings. You can't win all the time. I think maybe I'm just old enough to know that. You know what I mean? I've lived through it. I've been doing this for long enough, so... just rambling at this point, boys. Don't even know what I'm saying. Don't even know if I'm going to post this. But yeah, I feel like shit right now. Gonna get some sleep. Try and focus on the positives. It was my biggest winning day of the year on football, which is cool. But I'm fucking gutted that didn't make a profit on the UFC. And it's just tough times at the moment, so... in these times, I've been here many times before, all I do is just work harder. Work harder. Work harder, work harder, work harder. Hard work is undefeated. If you look at my profit chart, every time I have a dip, followed up by a huge winning run. Just gotta hang in there. Stay strong mentally. Keep working hard. Profits will take care of themselves. Can't control the outcome. Can't control the fighters. All you can do is consistently get your money in strong positions. Over the long term, you will make a profit, but variance can get fucking brutal. That's why I'm making these videos, though, so you can see the reality of it. So that when we're in the dumps now, when we're struggling in these times, people can make fun of me, talk shit, call me a fraud, all this stuff. It's all cool. It's all cool. Been here before, been here 15 years, been doing this shit. But you better stick around for my come up. The next leg up. Because I'm telling you right now, within 2-3 years, I'll be trading the Porsche for a Ferrari. It's Monday morning and it's like Groundhog Day. We're back in the dog park, bringing the dogs out so they can burn off some energy and give us a bit of an easier day to get some work done. I'm still feeling super depressed over last weekend, and I always feel like this after having a losing UFC. It's just very difficult mentally. Like, there's nothing glamorous about this game or what we do. It's very, very mentally difficult. And I had a comment on the last video, probably butchering the pronunciation of your name, so I really apologize for that, but it was from Rubies, and basically asking me how to essentially like weather the storm during downswings or during tough financial times. And I wasn't sure if Rubies was asking this question just in general, like about life and finances, or like downswings, tough times in betting. But I'll answer it in the context of betting because I'm very well qualified to answer that, but probably not so much in terms of like financially tough times. But for me, the way that you basically ride the waves of betting on sports, and there are waves. If you think you can come into sports betting and just win all the time, you're very much mistaken. And I think that's why I've been around so long. I understand that it's up and down and up and down and up and down. And over the long term, you know, the whole goal is to win a lot more than you lose and uptrend nicely. But there will be lots of dips along the way, lots of downswings. And I'm in the middle of one right now. But what I do know is if I stick to the principles that have enabled me to have so much success for so long, over so many years, in the very near future we'll go on a huge winning run. And how do I know that? Just because I've been in this situation so many times. Like I always say, I've been doing this for 15 years. I had my website for 12 years. And it always reaches a point in every cycle where it feels like whatever you do, you can't win. No matter how strong of a position you get your money into, the universe is going to do something crazy and gift you a loss. And that's the situation I'm in at the moment. And I know whenever it gets like that, it's very, very close to the bottom. So for me, whenever you are in a downswing, and this only really applies if you are profitable, because obviously if you're not profitable, you can just be in a downswing forever. But if you are profitable, then really you've got to trust yourself, trust in the strategies, the processes, the systems that have enabled you to be profitable for so long. And the most important thing is you must drown out the noise. You have to drown out the noise. Otherwise you'll go crazy. This game is all mental. It's like when I wake up today, have a bunch of people leaving comments, calling me clueless, calling me a fraud, telling me I don't know anything, I'm so stupid. And this always happens. Like, it's been happening for the last 15 years. Every time I lose, you know, people think I'm a joke, but then they're very quiet during the majority of the time that I win. And it's like that old saying, when you're good, they never remember. When they're bad, they never forget. So when you're good, they never remember. When you're bad, they never forget. And that's the way life is. People like winners, they don't like losers, right? So you have to trust in yourself, stay very consistent. The worst you can do is listen to other people in this game. Not true of all aspects of life, but in this game, you have to trust yourself, because if you start to second guess yourself, doubt yourself, you drive yourself crazy and you lose conviction in strategy, systems, ways of doing things, principles that you know over the long term are profitable. If you guys have got ChatGPT, do some research on variance and you'll see even the best sports bettors in the world can go on crazy losing streaks, like multi-year crazy losing streaks, pretty brutal ones. And that isn't going to happen to me, but doesn't mean it can't get real bad. So have to trust in yourself, and you just have to work hard and focus on what is true. Otherwise you'll drive yourself crazy. Work hard, research hard, try to make the best decision possible with the information you have available, and just ignore everything else. Just focus on what is true. If you do that, things always turn around, and they always have. I've probably had about, I would say, 4 or 5 bad downswings in my life. And if you look at my profitability charts, after every one, we always bounce back huge. So that's what's going to happen this time. Just have to stay consistent, hang in there, and just wait for the universe to reward me for my hard work, because I do know hard work is undefeated, and I do work really, 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 really hard. And the worse it gets, the harder I'll work. I'm at a point now where I'm working pretty much every single second of the day, and I'll keep doing that. But whenever I have a loss, I always want to focus on the positives, because again, it's a mental game, and if you can stay in a positive mindset, it makes it a lot easier to do your job optimally, which is why it's another reason it's very important to ignore people and drown out the noise, because if they drag you down, it can throw you off your game. And so with that being said, this week I'm going to focus on 3 things, 3 positive things. And I also want to give a big shout out to Kid Xavier for the positive vibes. He left a really nice comment on the last video, and it just put a smile on my face, put a smile on my wife's face. I really appreciate you, Xavier. Thanks a lot, mate. And that type of stuff helps a lot. You know, that people will want to see you fail. People want to see you fail. People, you know that saying, people love watching fire burn? People love watching fire burn. They want to see you fail. But positivity, it helps the world just be a better place, work better, you know, helps everyone do things better. So Xavier, I really appreciate you, mate. The 3 things I'm going to focus on this week that are going to be positive. The first thing, and many of you will not be interested in this, but I need to focus on football, because while I'm super depressed today, I actually made money last week. I actually did make a profit overall last week. I had my biggest winning day on football in over a year on Saturday, but I couldn't enjoy it because of what happened with the UFC. But I need to stop focusing on the negative. Like I say, our brains are wired to focus on the negative. It's a survival instinct, but I need to remind myself I did great Saturday betting football, so I need to focus on that. And this is the best time of the year for betting football, so I need to focus on that, work hard at that, and try and have another big week in football this week. The second thing that I'm going to focus on is finish building a page on my website for fight spread betting. So if you don't know what fight spread betting is, I'm not going to go into it now because it will take a long time to explain, but I will leave a link in the description below to the page I'm building on my website for it, because there's a type of bet that exists on the UFC that people in the United States have been able to place for a while, and I've been drooling over these bets because I think I can perform really well on them. But in the UK, we just haven't had access to them on many betting sites. Now we do. So I actually think these fight spread bets could be one of my most profitable type of bets, and perhaps this will be the catalyst to trigger that huge winning run I'm about to go on. So yeah, I'm going to take fight spreads very seriously from now on. So I'm building a page on my website for them, which will explain what they are, some articles explaining how they work. So they can be a little bit complicated, so go check that out. So that's the second positive thing I'm going to focus on. Third positive thing I'm going to focus on is I'm also going to build another page on my website to track how my pre-fight bets perform in regards to closing line value. Now, you know, earlier on I said the worse I perform, the harder I work. So where I said like I didn't listen to anyone else when I'm like in a downswing, that's just to stop myself going crazy. But that doesn't mean that I don't try and learn, improve, and get better. So closing line value is basically the difference between when you place a bet and the odds at which the odds close at when like the fight starts. So like if you, for example, bet Alexander Volkanovski a couple of weeks ago at 1.80 minus 125 odds, and then he closes at like 1.65, you beat the closing line because you placed a bet at better than what the odds closed at, right? And so I was doing a lot of research on what this means with ChatGPT, and basically, irrespective of your short-term performance, irrespective of whether you make a profit or not in the short term, if you are consistently beating the closing line in terms of you're consistently placing bets that are at odds better than how the odds close, then that is a very good indicator of long-term profitability. And I beat the closing line on a huge percentage of bets that I place, like almost all of them, to be fair. It's very, very rare that I will place a bet and the odds will improve against me. So this week I'm going to set up a page on my website where I want to start tracking the difference in the closing line between the odds that I place bets at. And that should give me some kind of indicator during these downswings that even if my results aren't necessarily showing a particularly good level of performance in the short term, what it should show me is long term I am still going to absolutely crush, which will just help me feel a little bit better mentally, because I can just then focus on the fact that so long as I am continuing to beat the closing line, no matter what the actual result says on paper, I'm on the right path, you know what I mean? And even though I know I'm on the right path, seeing it with cold hard data, it always helps make you feel better. So I'll leave a link to that page in the description below. I'm going to be building that, showing like all my bets, the odds we placed them at versus the closing line. And that is a very nice segue into the first fight that I want to break down, which is going to be Manon Fiorot against Valentina Shevchenko. It's very apt to talk about closing lines because we've seen big odds movement on Manon Fiorot in the last sort of 24 to 48 hours. So when I first saw all the odds, all the fights taking place at UFC 315, Manon Fiorot was one of the first names that jumped out at me as a potential bet. And when I researched the fight, her odds were 1.80, minus 125, something like that. And I researched the fight, and I didn't like Fiorot anywhere near as much as I thought I would. I thought I would love Fiorot in this fight. I turned out to not really favour her that much, not really like her that much at all, to the point where I was thinking of betting Valentina. But in the last 48 hours, since I've researched the fight, Manon Fiorot's odds have been decimated. I don't really know what the money line odds are, what the American odds are, because I don't use them, but her decimal odds have gone from 1.80 down to 1.62 on some sites, which is a huge move. So loads of money has come in on Manon Fiorot. And so that makes this a nice little tie-in to what we were talking about with closing line value, because is my edge in sports betting being able to cut through all the noise and focus on what is true? And is my edge knowing that Manon Fiorot doesn't have as good of a chance of beating Valentina Shevchenko as the wider market thinks? Is that my edge? Is that why I've been able to be profitable over so many years? Like that contrarian thinking, is that what helps me? Or should I not think so highly of myself and kind of go with the wisdom of crowds, right? And if we're talking about closing line value being a measure of long-term success, how can on one hand I say, well, I beat the closing line pretty much every pre-fight bet that I place, but then when I see the closing line move so much on someone like Manon Fiorot, I am not in agreement that those odds in the beginning of 1.80 were inaccurate? Should I just shut the fuck up, go with the data, trust the wisdom of crowds and back Fiorot? And this is why I also want to track closing line value and spend a lot of time researching it and analysing the data, because I could become a lot more profitable if I focus on just blindly placing bets where I know the line will close at worse odds than what I know I can get it at the time. Like, I'm very, very good at predicting odds movement, only because I've been doing this for such a long time. So that's something for me to think about as well. There's a lot to think about. This is the beauty of having a downswing. It's an opportunity for you to evaluate everything you do and get better. And I think that's why every single downswing I have, I then follow up with a huge winning run, just because you reflect, you analyze, you think deeply, you get better, you learn, you improve. And that's what's going to happen this time. So maybe the gift from the universe is learn a bit about this closing line value stuff and taking it more seriously, you know what I mean? So why didn't I like Manon Fiorot though as much as I thought I would? Well, this is one of those fights where, for me, Manon Fiorot is very much a point fighter. And if you look at her record, she has a bunch of fights go to a decision. But the thing about Fiorot is she's not that fast and she doesn't hit that hard. I thought she did. When she first came into the UFC, she was straight murdering bitches. But since then, since she started to face a higher level of opponents, she's kind of just been touching her opponents. And so against Valentina Shevchenko, because Shevchenko's so much faster, so much more explosive, hits so much harder, I'm wondering whether that point fighting style is going to be enough against an elite striker, right? There's a big difference styling on girls like Caitlin Chukagian or Caitlin Kamara, or whatever the fucking name is these days, and styling on girls like Erin Blanchfield, and styling on girls like Valentina Shevchenko. Now, I know Valentina is very old for the division. Should never comment on a lady's age, Valentina, if you're watching, which you're definitely not, but if you were, I would apologize for that comment. And I'm older than you, so it's very disrespectful. But, you know, is that point fighting style of just touching Valentina going to be enough to win a decision? Or will Valentina be too fast, hit too hard, too explosive, too dynamic? Will that be the difference? Based on my research, I think it will be. Yeah, I think it will be, you know. I don't expect there to be any grappling in this one. I'd be surprised. I don't think Valentina's wrestling's good enough to take Manning down or hold her down, and Manning never tries to take her opponents down, so it's probably going to be a stand-up fight. In a stand-up fight, I actually lean Valentina. I think Manning will have more volume, but she'll just be touching Valentina. She won't really be hurting her, whereas when Valentina lands, it'll be hard, it'll be damaging, it'll be impactful, it'll be explosive, although, to be fair, Valentina's a lot less aggressive than she used to be. So yeah, that's the first fight. Watch out for the more in-depth breakdown on my YouTube channel, where I might use a little bit of footage to show the points I mean. So the next fight we want to be talking about is another female fight. Fuck it, we'll cover the 3 female fights in this one. And that's going to be Natalia Silva versus Alexa Grasso. Now, Natalia Silva was another fighter that jumped out at me as a potential bet on this card. And I thought Natalia Silva could be a good bet here. I definitely still favour Natalia Silva, I just don't like the odds. Now, this is fucking very rich for someone that bet fucking Bo Nickel last week as a big favourite. I'm the last person that you probably want to be hearing about at the moment when it comes to talking about betting big favourites. And anyway, Natalia Silva's a big favourite, and very big favourite, and this is a fight where I definitely favour her in. You know, she hits harder, she moves very well, she throws a more diverse range of strikes than Alexa Grasso, who for the most part is just a boxer. But for me, the odds are just a little bit too steep. I do think this can be close, I do think it can be competitive. I don't trust MMA judges enough to bet on someone like Natalia Silva in what's predominantly going to be a stand-up fight, in a fight where in terms of volume it could be pretty close. Obviously, Alexa Grasso's major weakness is on the ground. Her takedown offense is very bad, her ground game is very bad. We saw that in the last Valentina Shevchenko fight, but because Natalia Silva never really tries to take her opponents down, I don't think that's going to matter that much. So my lean is definitely Silva, but I think the odds are just a bit too steep for me, and at time of recording, her odds are 1.50 minus 200. She's very popular, she's the new up-and-coming thing, so I'd expect those odds to get a bit worse as well the closer we get to the time of the fight. But we've already talked about what that means for closing line movement, so I'm not going to go over that again. And then the final fight we'll talk about right now, it's going to be Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Jessica Andrade. And again, Jasudavicius was one of the first names that jumped out at me as a potential bet. We've made a lot of money betting on Jasmine over the years. She's been an absolute cash cow for us. And the main reason we've been able to make so much money is because we bet on her to fight girls, or to beat girls who have bad takedown offense and low-level ground games, which is exactly what Jessica Andrade is. If the fight stays standing, Andrade will have a big advantage. If the fight goes to the ground, should be all Jasmine. But I'm not going to bet Jasmine. I'm going to reluctantly pass. I do favour Jasmine, but Jasmine is one of these fighters that loves a scrap. And over the last few years, we have seen a few situations where she hasn't grappled as much as she should in fights, which have made them closer than they need to be, or she's struggled altogether. The Tracy Cortez fight is a great example. So while Andrade is, you know, very weak on the ground, has pretty bad takedown defense, Jasmine at times is guilty of not actually shooting many takedowns and standing and striking a bit too much. And with how much damage Andrade can do on the feet, that's a dangerous game to play. With the size difference as well, while Jasmine will have a huge advantage because she's so much bigger than Jessica if the fight goes to the ground, the size difference could make it more difficult for Jasmine to get takedowns, because that lower center of gravity from Andrade will enable her to get underhooks in play easier and make it harder for Jasmine to get in on her legs. Hairs all over the place. So yeah, never forget, hard work's undefeated. I'll be working hard this week and hopefully it'll pay off. Guys, this video has been so negative so far, but you know what they say, you can't keep a good man down. And since I recorded in the dog park the other morning, I'm actually having a really good week. So I'm up about 3 units so far this week on football. So I'm in good spirits, I'm feeling happy, and I'm looking forward to the UFC this weekend now. I make a profit on the vast majority of UFC events. overall. Obviously, live betting on the UFC is my bread and butter. It's what I specialise in. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm feeling happy again. Look at this smile. It's all genuine. You got the football in the background. Life is good. We're making money. Happy days. So I think it's time we also broke down some more fights. So the first fight we're going to break down in this little segment is going to be Ivan Erslan versus we won another bet. We won another bet. We won another bet. I'm buzzing. Guys, you just literally caught me like, yo, let me record this for the guys in it. I gotta record this a second for the guys in there. Yo, guys, you literally just caught me like in the process of winning a bet. Like, these games were pretty much over and I thought these games were decided, and then bang, I'm like, whoa, I think I can hear a goal being scored in the background. So check this out. I'm going to flip this round, okay? So I've got 3 bets on football at the moment. If I flip this shit round, we got a bet on this game right here. This one is currently a winner. A bet on this game right here. This bet is currently a loser, this one in the middle. And then we got a bet on this game that was going to be a refund. This was going to be a push over here. But literally, I needed a team to basically score in the game that was going to end up as a push. And it was towards the end of the game, so I was like, oh, I'll just record a little vlog. You know what I mean? Ain't going to be no goals now. Record a little vlog, football on in the background. And I'm like, I'm talking to you about Navajo Sterling, and I'm like, hang on a minute. I hear a little goal being scored. Turn round, teams won. So anyway, it's a good week actually. I'm buzzing, and I've got to show you this. I'm not one of these cocks that is like bang, boom, all this shit. That's lame. That's fucking lame. But I'm gonna give it to you all real. And when I'm struggling and I'm losing and things are going shit, I'm gonna show you. I ain't gonna hide away from it. So when I'm lying in bed Saturday or Sunday morning after UFC depressed, I'm going to record that shit so you can see the pain in my eyes. It fucking hurts. When we're doing... Yo, I'm up 4 units on football since Saturday. 4 units. When I'm up 4 units on football, and my football units are a lot bigger than my pre-fight betting UFC units. So this is meaningful. This is money in the bank. I'm buzzing, boys. So I've got to show you both sides of the coin. Maybe this video gets a happy ending after all. You know? But I'm buzzing. Making sure there's no more goals. I'm looking forward to the UFC already on Sunday. But we got some fights to talk about, man. Let's talk about Navajo Sterling versus Ivan Erslan. So, we don't know a whole lot about Navajo Sterling. Obviously hasn't had many fights. And isn't a bunch of footage available on him. But in his last fight against Tuco Tokos, probably butchering the pronunciation of that name, while his striking did look very technical, his striking did look very fluid, there were some issues, I would say, with Mr. Sterling. Mainly the fact that he got tired throughout the fight. He became sloppier as the fight wore on. And his grappling, his takedown offense and ground game didn't look very good at all. So the problem with Erslan is that he's one of these jack of all trades, masters of none. He doesn't really have much power in his hands. Not a particularly strong grappler. You know, he's quite flat. You know, he's one of these guys that isn't a particularly good offensive wrestler. But what Erslan does have is good cardio and the ability to go hard for 3 rounds at a decent pace. His output is pretty good. We saw that in the Ion Cutelaba fight. So this is one of those matchups where early on, Erslan's probably going to struggle very bad because obviously Sterling's a much better striker. He's not going to be easy to take down early. Erslan is going to have to wear him out a little bit if he wants to use his grappling. But if Erslan hangs in there early, drags Sterling into deep waters, I mean, Tokos caused him a few problems in the second half of the fight. I think Erslan can as well. So it's going to be a tough fight for Erslan. I wouldn't bet him here, but there's no way I would touch Sterling as a big favourite either. If you want to bet this fight, this is clearly dog or pass. So the next fight we're going to be talking about is going to be Let's go for Modestas Bukauskas versus Ion Cutelaba. This is a really good fight. Both guys in the even money odds range. And I think this fight is going to come down to whether or not Bukauskas grapples or not. He usually doesn't. He's one of these guys that is a pretty good MMA grappler, but when you see him on the ground in his fights against guys like Marcin Prachnio, it tends to be because guys like Prachnio have initiated the grappling on him. So if this fight stays standing, I think Cutelaba hits too hard, is too technical, too aggressive, and Bukauskas is like a passive volume striker. So if the fight stays standing, Cutelaba should win. But even though Cutelaba is known for being a wrestler, I actually give Bukauskas quite a big advantage on the ground. And we know if you do make Cutelaba grapple a little, you can tire him out. And he is very weak off his back. I mean, we've just spoken about Erslan. We saw how weak Cutelaba looked off his back in the Erslan fight. So if Bukauskas does come in with a grappling heavy game plan, that's another goal. I didn't need that goal. My team had already won. Racing Club had already won, but they just won 4-0. We won, 4 units in a week, boys. On football. 4 units ain't bad. Anyway, where was I? 4 units, 4-0. Is this a sign from the universe? Love it. Maybe we'll make 4 units on the UFC this week. Ain't placed 4 units worth of pre-fight bets yet, so it better fucking happen in live betting. Anyway, where are we? Oh yeah, okay. So if Bukauskas grapples in this fight, should win pretty easily, but he never grapples. So it's not like you can bet on Bukauskas to grapple. But what I'm thinking is, Cutelaba hits so hard, he's so mean, he's so nasty, he's so aggressive on the feet. We have seen Bukauskas shoot takedowns when he's badly hurt in fights. Perhaps once he feels like Cutelaba's power, maybe then he will be forced to shoot. So in terms of my pick right now, it's a difficult fight to predict without knowing if Bukauskas will grapple or not. Therefore, I'm not going to bet it. But if you are going to bet this fight, I would actually lean towards Cutelaba, just because in order for Bukauskas to win, he's probably going to have to use a style and a strategy that he doesn't usually use. And you can't really trust fighters to do that. If you do, it often leads to disappointment. So with that being said, I would take Cutelaba or pass on this one. What fight should we do next? Should we do Bekzat? Should we do Bekzat Almacan versus... Yeah, okay, so the next fight we'll do is Bekzat Almacan versus Brad Katona. So this is a fight where Almacan is better than Katona everywhere. I'm very, very impressed by Almacan. Very technical striking, moves extremely well, very good MMA grappling. I mean, even Nurmagomedov at times struggled to take Almacan down and control him, which speaks volumes. He's also a bit bigger than Katona. Nice reach advantage. The only real advantage that Katona has coming into this one is his work rate. He obviously has very high output, and the fact that he's Canadian, so he'll have home advantage on his side. So if this fight does end up being pretty close, the judges may give Katona the nod. But this is a fight, Almacan's better everywhere, and unless you get like a bad decision, or Almacan is a lot more passive than he usually is, which to be fair, in some of his past fights, Almacan is quite passive. But yeah, if both guys show up and perform their full potential, so long as Almacan isn't super gun shy, he should win this fight wherever it takes place. So yes, 4 units, baby. Yo, I might have to turn the camera on and start recording when I'm betting football more often, because you guys might be good fucking luck. You guys might be lucky charms. You guys might be my 4-leaf clover. I'm sat here just talking about some cage fighting. Next minute, sounds like a goal. We won another bet live on video. Unbelievable. You guys, every time I'm struggling now, I'm just going to pop record on, start talking when there's some bets in play. And, maybe you guys can help me bank some more wins. Anyway, nice one, guys. I'm going to go to bed now, and we'll do some more fights tomorrow. What's up, guys? It is 6 a.m. Friday morning. I've been up all night working, betting on South American football. And I currently have a bet on this game here. It's a Mexican playoff game between Club Leon and Cruz Azul. And the bet is currently winning. but we're just going into 7 minutes of injury time. So the other night you guys brought me a lot of good luck. I'm hoping you can bring me some good luck here, because the team that I have bet on, Club Leon, we just flip this round, they are down to 10 men. They've had a red card, and the bet that I've placed, I'll bring this up for you right now. See, in the football betting group, the bet is an Asian handicap on Club Leon that we placed when they were losing 3-1. So what this bet basically means is, so long as Club Leon don't lose by more than 1 goal, the bet wins. So because they're currently losing by 1 goal, they're losing the game 3-2. The bet is currently winning. So as long as Cruz Azul don't score again, this bet is a winner. So I thought, what I will do, there's a few fights left to break down on this week's video. I'll break them down. Hopefully you guys can bring me some good luck, and we'll get this bet over the line. And this bet will either win or lose live while we do this breakdown. So a few fights left to break down this week. We will start off with the Radke versus Mike Mallet bet. So there's a few fights that I've got left to break down for you this week. The first one we'll kick off with is going to be Charles Radke versus Mike Mallet. So very good fight this. Mallet's obviously got home advantage on his side, but I really like Radke as the underdog in this matchup. There's a pretty good chance I'll be betting Radke. I haven't made my mind up yet, but I do think this is a pretty good stylistic matchup for Radke. Radke is one of these mean, nasty, aggressive, tough, well-rounded pressure fighters that just comes forward, forces you to engage, and just brings pure violence. He tries to drag you into a war. We've seen Mallet fade in his last 2 fights against both Neil Magny and Trevin Giles, and Mallet seems like one of these guys that starts very strong, but fades very quick if you make him work hard, and can be a little bit of a glass cannon. He did kind of break mentally against Neil Magny. So going up against a tough, well-rounded, heavy-handed war machine like Radke, I think if Radke can drag him into a brawl, I trust Radke to come out on top in that type of fight a lot more. What is going on here? A lot more than I trust Mike Mallet. So I like Radke in this fight. I think he can put a lot of pressure on Mallet on the feet and outwork him. I think, it'll be difficult to take Radke down and hold him down. Radke as the underdog is a very, very interesting bet this week. The next one I want to talk about is going to be Marc-Andre Barriault versus Bruno Silva. So both these guys are pretty bad on the ground, and it's very rare they try to take their opponents down. So this is probably going to be a stand-up fight. If it is a stand-up fight, it's a real clash of styles. Marc-Andre Barriault is a volume striker, but he doesn't really have any power in his hands. Whereas Bruno Silva, heavy-handed knockout artist. So Silva's one of these guys that has got big abnormal power, and when he lands clean and hard on his opponents, they almost have a look in their eyes like they can't believe he hits that hard. So this is the volume of Barriault versus the power of Silva. Barriault does have home advantage on his side, which is concerning, but Silva will likely be landing the harder, more damaging, more impactful shots. So Silva's the slight underdog. I do lean towards him. If this fight were on neutral territory, I probably would bet Silva to win this one outright. But with home advantage on his side, don't really want to bet against Barriault this weekend. But I do think that Silva is more likely to win. So if you're going to bet this fight, I would take Silva. So next fight we're going to fly through is going to be Carl Petravic versus Benoit Saint-Denis. We will make this one quick. Petravic does have home advantage on his side this weekend. He is Canadian. But that is about the only advantage that he does have on his side coming into this matchup. And very likely Benoit Saint-Denis will win this. Petravic coming in on just a few days' notice. Very difficult to come in on just a few days' notice against a tough, well-rounded guy like Saint-Denis. Saint-Denis is better than Petravic everywhere. There is one way this fight could get crazy. Is, of course, Saint-Denis does have a tendency to slow as fights wear on. But I don't think Preplec's going to be the kind of guy that will be able to make him pay for that. You never know, but I doubt it. And so, yeah, this is a pretty good fight for Sandeni. His odds reflect that he's a big favourite. So obviously not much upside in betting Sandeni at this odds range, but you know, you're putting your money in a lot of danger if you go in on Petravic. Final fight that we need to talk about is going to be Daniel Santos versus Ji Yong Lee. And this should be a stand-up fight. Neither of these guys ever really tried to take their opponents down. I'll be surprised if we get any grappling in this fight. Very likely going to be a stand-up fight. And in a stand-up fight, Daniel Santos is your typical sort of shooter box Muay Thai fighter. Likes to take control of the centre of the octagon, come forward, put a lot of pressure on his opponents, push them onto the back foot, and like to break them with volume, pressure, and aggression. Ji Yong Lee doesn't like to take a backward step, though. We saw that in his fight against Haider Amil. He does have big power, and he will meet Daniel Santos head on. I think we're going to see some big exchanges in this fight. I think we're going to see some violence. I think it's going to be a very, very good stand-up fight. Neither of these guys ever really tried to take their opponents down, so unlikely we see any grappling. And Lee has the power in this matchup, but Santos has the better technique and the volume. So again, a little bit similar to Bruno Silva versus... Is this game over yet? Very similar to Bruno Silva versus Marc-Andre Barrio. This matchup is very much power versus volume. Lee's got the power. Santos has got the volume. I actually lean towards Santos in this fight, but don't have a really strong opinion on it. Could go either way. I won't be betting it. So that's this week's vlog. I did a lot of talking in this week's vlog. There wasn't as much variety as I would have liked. I've been very busy working on the website. I've bet a lot of football this week. There's tons of football taking place this time of year. So May is the busiest month of the year for betting football. So once May is done, I'll have more time to focus on these vlogs. But I hope you enjoyed seeing what it was like live betting with me. I will vlog that again this week, and every week you'll be able to see whether I make a profit or a loss in live betting. I make a profit almost every week in live betting on around 67% of events. So if you watch every UFC event live, it's an absolute no-brainer to join my live betting group. Link in the description below. And I'm actually just having my biggest week in over a year on football. The game's over. The bet on Club Leon won. Happy days. Hope you crush it this weekend on the UFC. I hope you make loads of money. I'll be back next week with another vlog. And fingers crossed, we can all make a bit of cash on the UFC tomorrow night. Nice one, guys. Love you. Bye.